You know how you sometimes have a sixth sense that you've been scammed? That somehow the information that you're receiving is not really what is being given to you in terms of truth. In today's episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories, we're going to discover that I almost got scammed and really almost fell flat on my feet and completely opened up all the different secrets and IP that I have built over the last few months on MoloMolo Tech. This is another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. PK, and thank you so much for joining another episode where we get to really learn on the go about what it means to be empowered, but also what it means to really have something of purpose that you can give back to your community through tech. So this week, I have been, to be fair, over the last couple of weeks, I have been going through a recruitment process. I have been looking at replacing some of the interns. Now, I haven't really divulged into what we do in terms of MoloMolo Tech. How are we able to satisfy our customers' needs? We do have an internship program that basically gets given into our website on a regular basis, really, and we allow mostly Africans to apply for that and hopefully give them a leg up in terms of getting to work with a really professional entity, which is MoloMolo Tech, which has been built from the ground up. And in exchange, they are able to give us their time for them to learn more about system engineering, system thinking, modeling, simulation, and of course, work on actual client projects that actually makes a difference. So one of the applications that came through, it wasn't so long ago, actually a couple of days ago, was an individual from South Africa. Now, the name of the country doesn't matter because we have incredibly high talents from all over Africa, whether it's Kenya, whether it's South Africa, Ghana, Egypt has been also one of our lists in terms of internships. So we're very privileged in terms of being able to attract really high level talent to work with us. But this individual is specifically from Johannesburg, and he applied, and immediately I was drawn to the application because it said PhD. Not only did it say PhD, it said PhD in astrophysics, and I thought, wow, that is amazing. It's, I've worked, whether it's UAV for Africa or whether it is MoloMolo Tech, I have worked with some PhD interns, and it's been relatively really well in terms of output, and it's been really good. But this one was astrophysics, not engineering, not biochem or something similar to an engineering field, but physics. And I thought, wow, okay, this is really a game changer. And I think overall it went well. The application process, the interview process really went well. To be honest, the individual was very eloquent. He said all the right things. And I thought, okay. And really there and there, I usually, work on my gut feel. But, where I was a bit rushed. And I said, yeah, let's go for it. Why not? What is the harm of really trying internship? And the internship is not really on a salary basis. We pay on outcome based. So whatever you work over a specific amount of time and the output that you give is there's a certain rate attached to it, and that's your compensation. So, the signing up of an individual is not the issue, right? So essentially, one will be able to do the work, and if the work gets done, then you get paid. So the risk on our side wasn't real until I thought to myself, but hold on, this is a PhD guy, this is a doctor. I even gave him his props. I said, hey, you are a doctor, and I'm definitely keen on getting to know more about who you are and what you do and so forth. So I was very keen on giving him his props, and I called him doctor, and he called doctor back, and I thought, okay, wow, we definitely gonna have a rapport, and I think the rest of the interns will really take a lot of motivation from this. But then I had a sixth sense. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And I started this episode by saying, do you know when you have a sixth sense? I had a sixth sense. I'm like, man, let me find out what he's done. I mean, he said he was in Berlin and so forth. And I thought, okay, wow, why not? Let me find out more about his studies. So then I go and I type his name on Google Scholar. So most PhD, by definition, your work should be public. So typing name and surname, it should hit something. And that's the first clue. Nothing popped up. And I thought, okay, that's weird. So then I said, okay, and I asked him directly. I sent him a message and said, hey, listen, I would like to know a bit more about your research. Where can I find it? And the guy said, well, my research was under a specific company. It was deemed confidential. And so after a specific time, will it be released and so forth? I said, okay, okay. I mean, I've heard of that before, specifically for defense. But he mentioned a South African company that is in electricity. And I thought, okay, he mentioned Eskom. And I thought, okay, but that doesn't sound right. What, why would Eskom be interested in astrophysics? Maybe from a science perspective, but it's still very far-fetched to not disclose a public dissertation or thesis that is of public interest. So I said, okay, fine, but don't you have some conference papers that at least I can have a look? And he said, sure, of course, they haven't been published, so I will definitely send it over to you. I said, sure, that would be amazing, thanks. He sent it to me, and it was all legit. It's like, oh wow, this is serious work. And half the stuff I didn't understand. I thought, okay, well, this is okay, legit. But then I had another sixth sense. I said, man, I would like to know about citations. How well did this paper do? Maybe he doesn't know it's disclosed. Maybe it got disclosed, or maybe I don't know what that sixth sense was, but I just had a sixth sense. Let me just type the title of this paper in Google Scholar and find out if it also says it's not found. Lo and behold, I type the title in Google Scholar, and guess what I get? I get the exact same title in Google Scholar, but all the names of the authors are all different and does not include this person's name. Then I said, okay, let me download the paper, and maybe it's the same title. Benefit of the doubt, maybe the content is different. No. The content of the paper he sent me and the content of this paper that I found on Google Scholar is exactly mapped one-to-one the same. Except the only difference between those two was that his paper that he sent me had his email address and name on the author list and email address, and the one that I found on Google Scholar didn't, had someone else's name and email address. As I said, this is weird. He had sent me 3 papers. I opened the first one, same thing. Hit on Google Scholar with a different author. Second one, same thing. Third one, same thing. Then I said, hold on. What are the chances that each and every single one of these papers not only have a different set of authors, but all of them have a completely different author, and none of them mentions this guy's name? I said, for me, this is phishing. And the papers are exactly mapped one-to-one. And of course, living in the age of AI, the first thought I thought, nothing stops someone from editing a PDF document nowadays. Nothing. AI is more than capable of keeping everything the same while revealing other things. So I thought, okay, but I don't want to confront him. I thought, let me just confront him, because at least let him come up with an explanation that will give me some solace that indeed I made a mistake. And my bias was, man, I hope he made a mistake, because surely this is unusual. So I called them up. I said, hey, listen, I want to know, but I mean, I'm getting a bit of a sense that the information you sent me is not correct, or am I missing something? What I'm getting from the internet is that there's no recollection of your academic paper publication whatsoever, but at the same time there is, but without your name on it. Can you explain? And he gave me a long-winded story. And then I had another sixth sense. Let me just bluff him and say that one of the authors which was, and I investigated, was a professor at at supposedly the school that he graduated in. I said, but that professor doesn't remember you. I spoke to him and he doesn't remember you. Of course, I lied, but I wanted to bluff him. And he's like, yeah, Brian, or whatever his name is. And yeah, I mean, the reason why he doesn't remember me maybe is because, I went to another university, I came back. I said, but how does it explain that someone else is put on the list of authors, not you, and the professor doesn't remember you, and that's okay? It's like, yeah, no, but I mean, I can get more information for you. I said, no, I don't need more information. I need the truth. So the guy's, no, but I said I will get. I said, okay, well, the only thing you can do is someone to call me and really vouch for you that indeed all this information is true. He's like, yeah, sure, I can do that. I mean, and then I said, but you know what? Why are you doing that? Can you see how bad it looks for you? And unfortunately, this is a breach of confidentiality that I cannot go back on, and I will have to cancel all your contracts that you've signed. And thank goodness I hadn't given any access to the GitHub repository and any access to some of the other stuff that we use. And I thought, man, but then I thought, no, man, I really want to get to the bottom of this. Is this a misunderstanding, or is it really, really something that is essentially a scam? So I said, okay, let me use my own time and money and let me call up the university that he said he went to in South Africa. So this individual went to Free State University. It's in South Africa. I called them up. I didn't get a specific answer. I carried on. I went from one faculty to the next. I eventually got hold of a specific lady. And then I asked, listen, I have this person's name and surname. Can you please run a check? Because I would like to know. He claims he has a PhD. He applied for to my company to work for. And yet I don't have any recollection of what this guy is doing. And what has he done? And she's like, sure, give me 15 minutes. Please give me his full name and surname. I gave it to her. And she ran it. And she said, listen, call me back in 15 minutes. I know you're calling from Germany. So give me 15 minutes and I'll get back to you. So 10 minutes later, she calls me back. And she's like, hi, Dr. Kantwe. Please note that this person, I have his academic record, which I have in front of me right now, right? This is the stuff I have in front of me. He's, of course, because of the nature of this incident, I would like to follow a more, I wouldn't say diplomatic route, but definitely a more stringent route by giving it over to the authorities in South Africa and say this is the person who impersonates being a PhD student and a PhD graduate and is not, because this academic record, guess what it says? It says this person, I'm not going to give you the full details, but he failed 1 year of astrophysics. He only did first year, and then he moved on to something else. He did that and he failed, and the trail ends in 2017. So the person who I interviewed is but a shadow of the person who actually went to school there. So I reflected on this and I thought, of course, I got good advice from my wife not to give details of who this person is. But then I thought, man, this is crazy that someone would go, what would push someone to go to a point where they lie about being a PhD student and being a PhD graduate in astrophysics? Wow. And there's a couple of things that come to my mind when it comes to such things. The first one is we can't be this desperate to achieve and to try and get stuff done and to get into the door and be recognized. I think you do a lot more damage long term by doing that. I think even the white lie, i.e., the kind of the little omission that you can make, provided that it's small enough that it's inconsequential, sure, maybe. But a lie that says you're a PhD student when you actually haven't even graduated with a Bachelor of Science? Wow, that's a far, far stretch. And that really leads me to point number 2, which is we live in the age of spin. Dave Chappelle, one of my favorite comedian, really put it out there to say, you don't really know what's true or not. And the one thing you have in your arsenal is your sixth sense. AI doesn't have sixth sense. We can't rely on prompts to solve these types of things. You can't. It's all within you. It's all within kind of the body language, what people say, how they say it, why they say it in that way. And through that, only then can business thrive and a career thrive, is by really making some decisions based on sixth sense. And a lot of them are. So my encouragement to myself, and I'm feeling really good that I investigated and found out that indeed this was the case and my sixth sense was right, is to really use AI as a tool, but never a replacement for human sixth sense, the humanness when it comes to decision making. So that's the lesson of today's podcast, and I hope it has really helped. I know it's scary, right? It is incredibly scary what could have been the consequence if I didn't listen to my sixth sense. I could be looking at something completely different. I could have been sued by other people who said to me, listen, you've hired a fraud and you should have had better quality controls in terms of your hiring process. So anyway, I'm really grateful that it didn't come to that point. So that is the podcast of today. I almost got scammed, and I'm here to tell the tale, still smiling and moving forward. I'm Dr. PK. This was another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time. Ciao.